Washington, Seattle 2022. Anastasia. Most stories open up in pleasant settings, but mine started in a prison cell. Never did I imagine I'd end up here, especially for the man I loved. God, life is unpredictable. I was staring at the dirty ceiling, watching the spiders scurry around. How had I ended up here? Then I heard a voice, snapping me back to reality. Mrs. Rogers? A guard's voice snapped me back to reality. You're going home, she said as she unlocked the cell. A smile tugged at my lips. Finally, I was going home, my husband was here for me. I had feared he'd forgotten about me. A few months ago, he had begged me to take the blame for hitting someone while speeding. You're just a housewife, it won't affect you, he'd said. He promised to pick me up when I got out. As we walked to the reception, my heart sank. The man waiting for me wasn't my husband. My bail had been paid by someone else. Of course, it's not him, I muttered under my breath. The officer asked if something was wrong. $500, that's how much my bail cost. But apparently, my husband couldn't or didn't want to help. I signed the papers quickly, not wanting to show how disappointed I was. The officer warned me about speeding again. I nodded, thanking him, and left. Ms. Anastasia, good to see you. Scott, my brother Trey's driver, greeted me. I'm not dealing with you today, I snapped, not wanting to talk to him. Please, let me give you a ride. His persistence was exhausting. My husband will come get me, I insisted. Don't you have work to do? This is my job, Scott said calmly. I looked out the road and hoped to see at least a sign of a taxi, but nothing. Fine. I reluctantly agreed to let him drive me home. Gosh, I couldn't wait to get home, have a warm bath, eat good food, and hopefully cuddle with my husband. The past few days I haven't seen him felt like forever. I don't know for how long I've closed my eyes, but when I felt the car coming to a halt, I jolted up and looked out the window just to make sure he brought me home, my husband's house, not the other way around. Thank you, I said as I opened the door. I didn't hear what he said, but something. Well, it didn't matter, what was important was that he brought me home. Reaching the gate, I found it locked, so I knocked. I kept knocking, but no one came to answer. The gatekeeper must be off today, I thought as I reached into my handbag and got my keys. Luckily, I had a spare key for the gate, so taking it, I opened the gate, and after closing, I walked toward the house door. I couldn't help but notice my husband's favorite car. He must be off today, I said to myself, but if he's... I stopped and thought for a second, no, he's probably not feeling well, saying that I quickly rushed to the door. What if he was sick and no one came to check on him? But as I unlocked the door, I heard sounds that made my bag slip from my hands. The sounds seemed to be coming from the living room. My heart started racing and, my nerves pricking, but I calmed myself, I didn't want to jump to any conclusions and regret it later. Ah, baby. My knees felt weak. I knew who the voice belonged to. Even though it felt like my legs wouldn't support me any longer, I dragged myself to the living room. I had to see for myself. And there, the small hope I relied on was shattered. My husband was in between a naked woman's legs. I didn't need to guess who the woman was, as I knew those legs well, Jimena. What the fuck? What are you doing here? My so-called husband quickly got up and zipped his trousers, he was still shirtless. No, I won't say I was shocked. I knew he was cheating on me. I just didn't know he would do it in my own house, especially when I was locked up because of him. I knew about his infidelity, Jimena made it well known. Still, I held on to a small hope that he would one day get bored of her and change. I never thought it would lead to this, I was never prepared for a day like this. Babe, please go upstairs. He didn't sound regretful or shameful at all, and no, he wasn't talking to me, he was talking to Jimena. I watched with blurry eyes as she obeyed him, she even had the guts to peck his lips before she walked toward the stairs in my own house. And you, were you not supposed to be in jail? He turned to me, his voice cold. W what? My voice trembled. I didn't even know what I was feeling as I couldn't feel my heart, it was like it stopped working, but I could feel my body shaking and the tears that I hadn't even noticed rolled freely down my cheek. Listen, grandfather is dead, so there's no use pretending anymore. We're getting a divorce, he declared, sounding calm, like I didn't just catch him fucking his mistress on my sofa. I was speechless. Sure, the marriage never worked out, and I expected this after his grandfather's death, but today? How could he do that when I sat in that cell for his crime? I will have my lawyer start with the process. He brushed his fingers across his mouth, removing lipstick. The sight of it made my heart ache. What? What are you saying, William? Aren't you tired of crying? He spoke over me. I looked up, seeing the frustration in his face as he raked a hand through his hair. Listen, you tricked me, and your time is over, or what made you think Grandpa would never die? But, why now? I whispered, trying to understand. We can talk about this, William, we can't just. Just what? Get a divorce? God, you're such a headache. He started rubbing his temples. He always did that and always complained about how unhappy he was, but I knew marriage wasn't easy. I knew he wasn't himself, so I stepped closer and tried to touch his hands, but he flinched away. What the FCK? Why would you touch me? He raised his voice. Yes, he never allowed me to touch him. The only time I would ever feel his skin is when he's NY. That happens maybe once a month, the times he and Jimena are having misunderstandings. That's the only time I felt desired, as he would come to me and start kissing my body, and once he got what he wanted, he treated me like trash. Well, he was hard to resist, so he always got his way. I'm sorry, but we can work on this, our marriage, William. There's nothing to work on, Anastasia. I never loved you. But I do. You know I love you. Well, Jimena doesn't want to share me anymore. Now stop making this a big issue and get out of my sight. He spoke louder. The frowns on his forehead told me he was very upset, and I knew him well. I've been married to him for 4 years, so I knew if I continued, it would not end well, so I closed my mouth and silently watched him walk to the sofa, and then he started fixing the sofa, returning the cushions to where they belonged. And do me a favor, Jimena doesn't like noise, so if you would just close your mouth. He added, not sparing me a glance. I was silently staring at him with tears still rolling down my cheeks. No, this wasn't happening. How could he bring his mistress into my house and ask me to keep quiet because she didn't like noise? Baby, are you done? Jimena's voice broke my thoughts, making me quickly wipe my tears. I refused to let her see me so vulnerable. She had always wanted William for herself, but I wasn't going to let her think she had one. She walked past me, shoving me out of the way with barely a glance. It was so disrespectful. William wrapped his arms around her, kissing her forehead. He'd never once done that for me. He only kissed me when he wanted something. I realized now that Jimena was the one he loved, not me. I had been his wife for years, and yet I was nothing to him. I wiped away another tear, but more followed. It hurt to see him laugh so easily with her, something he never did with me. Some films are scary, Jimena said, and William responded, I'm here, nothing will happen to you. They acted as though I weren't even in the room. It was too much to bear. I turned away, retreating to my room, trying to escape the scene. I needed to calm down. I wasn't prepared for this. What was a wife supposed to do when she met her husband's mistress? I refused to be one of those wives who overreacted, but this was beyond anything I could handle. I clenched my fists, trying to calm the storm inside. I needed the pain to distract me from what I was feeling. I grabbed my phone and called my best friend. Anna. Are you all right? She asked, her voice filled with concern. I'm okay. Just miss you. Can we meet? I sniffed, my voice shaky. Of course. Usual place. She replied. I ended the call quickly, not wanting her to hear my voice break. She would know something was wrong, and I didn't want to worry her. I had been through so much with her, and I felt guilty for always dumping my problems on her. But now, I couldn't tell her about William asking for a divorce. I couldn't. I walked to the wardrobe to grab clothes for after my shower, but when I opened it, my clothes were gone. I checked the other side, but it was empty too. Your clothes are packed, came Jimena's voice, and I froze. She stood there, leaning against the door, holding a glass of juice in her hands. Excuse me? I'm moving in with Liam, she said casually. You two are getting a divorce, and it won't be long before we're married. So, we'll share the bedroom. Her words hit me like a punch. She was beautiful, tall, blonde, with a perfect model body. I could see why William loved her. And besides, she added, I'm pre-arrogant. And I can't sleep in a small room because of the nightmares. Pregnant. The word echoed in my mind. God, how was I going to even solve this? She was carrying his fucking baby. My head spun as I stumbled back to the bed, clutching my chest against the stabbing pain. I did you a favor packing your bags. I could have just thrown your things everywhere, Jimena sneered, her words slicing through the silence. I ignored her, desperately trying to steady my breath. You can't be pregnant. William won't accept it. Are you calling me a liar? She snapped. I held her gaze, refusing to show how much she was hurting me. I was William's wife. She was just his mistress. It didn't matter if he loved her, by law and to the world, I was Mrs. Rogers. Yes, I said firmly, rising from the bed. You've always wanted my husband. I'm sure you made this up. No, Anastasia, she said, stepping closer with a wicked smile. Liam has always loved me. You're the one who tricked him. You came between us. It doesn't matter, I cut her off. Her expression faltered. I'm his wife, and that's all that counts. He's going to divorce you, she said in a confident voice. He loves me. Until he does, I'm still his wife. The lady of the house. Now, take your filthy belongings out of my room before I do something you'll regret. Jimena froze for several seconds. But before I could savor the moment, she raised a glass of juice and poured it over herself, screaming theatrically. What the hell? William burst into the room, rushing to her side as she pretended to shiver. She's crazy, William. I didn't do anything. She whimpered. William immediately wrapped his arms around her, his face darkening as he glared at me. She's going to pay for this, he growled. Go clean up in the guest room. I'll join you shortly, William said softly. She nodded, throwing me a fake sympathetic smile as she left. Why the hell did you do that? William barked, his fury directed at me. I didn't do anything. She's lying. Don't you dare accuse her. Jimena isn't like you. So, I'm the liar now? Yes. Now pack your things and apologize to her. Are you serious? My voice rose, startling him. This is my house, he said coldly. We're getting a divorce. You can move to one of the guest rooms, or Ivy's. Ivy is our daughter. She's very cute and thinking about her made me even more reluctant to get a divorce. I'm still your wife, William. This is my room, too. I longed for an ounce of mercy. Enough. You're a damn headache. Haven't you caused me enough misery over the past 4 years? His words hit like a dagger. I'm going downstairs to check on Jimena, he said, turning to leave. I want you gone when I get back. William, I called, my voice trembling. He paused but didn't turn. Have you ever thought of loving me? Even a little. What? Answer me, William. Could you imagine loving me, even in 5 years? He finally turned, his expression devoid of warmth. Never. Not in this life or the next. These past 4 years have been hell. I hate you, Anastasia. I hate you. The door slammed behind him, leaving me alone with my shattered heart. Maybe it's time to give up on this marriage. I looked at my packed bag. I didn't care what was inside, I just needed to leave. My gaze fell on the divorce papers his mother had given me days ago. Sign them, you leech, her voice echoed in my mind. She despised me from the start, just like her son. Tears blurred my vision as I scrawled my name on the dotted line. I left the papers on the bed, grabbed my bag, and walked out. Reaching the stairs, I froze. William was downstairs, laughing as he tickled Jimena. He kissed her stomach, something he'd never done when I was pregnant. I had a difficult labor when I gave birth to Ivy, and he didn't even drive me to the hospital, actually he was in another city that day. I cleared my throat, and their laughter stopped. What now? William asked irritably. Can't you figure out which room to pick? I'm leaving. What? He stood abruptly. I've signed the divorce papers. Finish them and file them. I want this done. You're not leaving, he said, his voice sharp as he grabbed my wrist. I don't need your permission. I'm your husband, and you'll leave when I say so. His grip tightened, and I winced. William, let her go, Jimena interjected. Shut up, Jimena, he snapped, shocking her into silence. You listen to me, he said, leaning closer. You're not leaving this house until I say so. Is that clear? I was shocked. Why didn't William allow me to leave, and most importantly, what made him think I would listen to him? I knew I was still in love with him, but I knew when to stop. I broke eye contact and freed my arm from his grip. You're not leaving here, Anastasia. Why? I sounded confident. Why should I not leave? Because I say so. God. I couldn't believe him. I shook my head as I couldn't find the words to respond. He was full of himself. Now go back to the guest room before I lose my patience, he commanded. I looked at him and then at Jimena, who was as shocked as me as she left the magazine she was pretending to read and fixed her eyes on us now. I don't know what's wrong with you. I mean, sure, I was a fool to fall for you, but to think you own me. I hysterically chuckled. I own you. I don't know if your father told you, but the situation his company is in is not good, and without me, it wouldn't be a company. Wait, you're threatening me with my father's company? Yes. If you leave, I will pull out my investments and tell him you made me do it. He wasn't even ashamed to say that. How the fuck did I end up marrying him? William, what's wrong with you? Jimena asked, but he ignored her as he was focused on me. Now be a good wife and go back to our room, we will sort this out peacefully. William sounded like he was trying to manipulate me, as his voice was softer than ever. I shook my head and smiled at how stupid I had been. He really had me for a fool because, on a normal day, I would simply obey and do whatever he says, but today isn't that day. Good, he smiled. I don't know what made him think I was doing what he asked, but as I turned and dragged my bag to the door, he immediately stopped me once again and held me back by my arm. Let me go. You're making a big mistake. The only mistake I made was to marry you, William. You better listen while I'm being nice, Anna. You know what will happen if I let my devil take control, he threatened. I don't care what happens, let go of my arm now, or I will call the police. You're joking. You don't know me, William, now. I forcefully freed my arm and walked to the door without saying another word. Don't say I didn't warn you, Anastasia, I'm going to ruin you, he shouted, but I didn't care. What's the worst that could happen? Reaching the door, I quickly opened it, afraid that he would stop me, but luckily he didn't. I walked out, and warm tears rolled down my cheeks. I sniffed and held in my cries as I couldn't cry outside. I didn't have a car and didn't want to go back in there to ask for his car keys because it would just give him and his mistress another reason to look down on me, so I walked out of the gate as I planned to get a cab. I placed my heavy bag down and reached for my phone, and just when I got it, the same guy from earlier, the one who bailed me out of prison, came. Ms. Anastasia. He called out, and I quickly wiped my tears. Are you okay? He asked, and I cleared my throat to speak but could not find the words. I was tired of lying. Please go, I tried to sound okay. You know I will be punished if I leave you here. I'm fine, Scott, please. I insist, at least let me give you a ride to where you're going. No, Please don't make my job difficult, Ms. Anastasia. I promise it's just a ride, then I'll be out of your sight, he insisted, and somehow it brought a smile to my face as he kept saying this, but it never happened. I looked down the road. I knew cabs rarely came to this side as most people had their cars, and I didn't want neighbors to find me stranded on the road. They would suspect something and start a rumor on social media, so I nodded and walked to his car while he picked up my bag. I got in the back seat, my eyes on my phone, as I tried to text Vivian, my best friend, the one I called earlier, to meet up. Oh my God, I've been waiting for 30 minutes now, are you still coming? Vivian asked. Hearing her voice triggered the tears I was holding in, so I covered my mouth to stop myself from whimpering. Are you deaf? I said I'm waiting for my friend. I heard her raise her voice probably to the waitress. That was Vivi. She was very difficult to handle. Yes, I'm fine, I cleared my voice. Are you sure? She sounded worried. Yes, I'm sure I just have the flu. I'm sorry I'm not coming. What? Do you want me to come? No. I will speak to you tomorrow. I was quick to respond. All right, I have to take lunch for Harriet anyway. I will talk to you later, she said, and I nodded, holding in the tears. She was taking lunch to Harriet, her husband. Vivi's life was so easy, she had a good family and a husband who loved her. I just wondered what she did in her past life that I haven't done because, unlike her, my family disowned me and my husband, well, I couldn't even call him that. Do you want to stop by somewhere? Scott's voice shook me out of my thoughts. I shook my head. All right, so the ringing of my phone stopped him. It was William. I cancelled as I had nothing to say to him, then it started ringing again and I cancelled, then a notification of a message popped up. You have nowhere to go. I called all the hotels. No one will allow you to spend the night at their hotel. I read the first message and ignored it. Get back home and let us talk. I'm only doing this for my daughter. You are the mother of my child, and it will be bad if you spend the night outside and get sick. I read the third but shook my head, still not responding. This is your last chance, Anastasia. Not even for Ivy's sake will stop me from ruining you. You know leaving will attract public interest. Now, for the last time, come back home. I could imagine his frowny face from the text, then a notification popped up, and it was a tag on social media. I was curious to see who had tagged me, so I quickly went to the post and was shocked to see the headline of the post. William Rogers, the CEO of the Rogers Enterprise, proposes a divorce to his wife, Anastasia Rogers, the young disowned heiress of the Lancaster family. I read out loud. The public is left with questions on why Mr. Rogers divorced his wife right after his father's death. Now if you all remember how their marriage was fishy from the start. I quickly went down the comments, and most of them were tags. People were tagging both me and William. It was crazy, but I kept scrolling until a specific tag caught my attention. My once calmed heart started beating faster again as I saw not only one but two more tagged with the name. Mr. Lancaster, my father. They had just tagged my father, and it must mean he saw it, and if he saw it then I was in trouble, serious trouble, and the last thing I needed was to upset him. Fuck. Anastasia. I slapped my forehead, which caught Scott's attention as he turned to me with a curious look. Drive. I cut him. Ms. Anastasia. I'm not Ms. Anastasia. I clarified, though I was choked up as I said this. I guess now, just drive, please. I was choked up as I said this. It was hard to face the truth that I was not married to William anymore. Scott nodded his head and then started the car. I took a deep breath as I tried to calm myself. I rested my head on the seat and closed my eyes, as I knew it would calm me because I needed to be as calm as possible. I scratched my arms as they were a little itchy. I hadn't had a proper bath in days. Even with my eyes closed, I didn't miss it when the car came to a stop. I quickly opened my eyes, and without waiting for Scott, I assisted myself out of the car. My apologies, Ms. Anna Rogers. I bumped into him as he was about to open the door for me. Just give me my bag. I sniffed, and Scott without wasting time rushed to the trunk, and before I knew it, he was back with my bag in his hands. He opened his mouth to probably ask, but I didn't let him say the words as I grabbed my bag from his hands and without a moment to lose, I hurried to my apartment door. When I reached the door, I stopped and stared at it for a split second. I used to live here before marrying William. It was my grandma's apartment, but she left it in my name. Dad and I never got along, so on the bad days I spent most of my days here. Taking a deep breath, I reached for my keys and then unlocked the door, ignoring its dust. I struggled for a few seconds because the lock was old. It had been like that even when Grandma was alive. I promised to fix it but never got a chance because, after marrying William, I became a housewife, talk of taking care of a baby who needed my attention 24/7. When I got in, I threw the bag down and walked straight to my bedroom. I needed to wash my body as my skin was itchy. My room was dusty, but I didn't have the time to clean, so ignoring it, I took off my clothes and went to the shower. I turned on the warm water and quickly washed my body. Whatever I was doing, I tried so hard not to think of anything at the moment. I had to be strong. Of course, I will cry, just not now. The shower didn't take time as I was quick. After that, I wore my comfortable pajamas and then walked to the kitchen. I luckily stocked my fridge with each chance I got, so there was food. I took the bucket of yogurt and ice cream and placed it on the counter. I walked to the cupboard and tried to get a spoon. I struggled to get a hold of the glass jar that had the spoons, and before I knew it, the jar came flying and landed on the floor, crashing it into a million pieces. Fuck. I cursed out loud, annoyed at why everything had to be so bad today. After sighing, I walked to the broken pieces, paused for a second before I bent, picked up one spoon, and then walked to the counter and took my 2 bowls in my arms, then walked to the living room. My couch was dusty, but I didn't bother to clean it as I sat down and started mixing the ice cream and yogurt before I started eating. I stayed silent, eating before I remembered my phone. I had to check it in case Dad called. I was not ready to deal with him, but I knew there was no escaping that old man. Maybe he'll not be too harsh on me when he hears that William and I are getting a divorce, I said to myself before I stood up and almost walked to the bedroom but stopped at the knock on the door. My heart started beating fast as I thought of the possibility of William following me here. I didn't have the heart to face him now, and I was not ready to even process the whole divorce thing now. I took small steps to the door, and as I reached there, I peeped through the door hole. I could see a person, and with the clothes, I could tell it was a man. I knew it couldn't be William, as when I left him he was in his home clothes. I thought it was Scott, so I slightly opened the door, but when I saw the person, I tried to close it, but they forced their way until they were in. Anastasia. If you're here to make fun of me, then I advise you to leave now, brother, I said and walked back to the couch while he remained frozen. I know, yes, I was wrong, and yes, I'm in big trouble, but trust me, I know how to solve my problems, okay? I said as I picked up my bowl and started eating. The person still didn't respond, and I, not wanting to force anything, ignored him and focused on my food. Anna. He finally said after a long moment. Just get over with it, Trey. What are you going to say now? That you warned me? Well, I'm sorry for being. I'm so sorry, he said, surprising me. I turned to look at him, and he nodded his head and then came to me. Listen, I'm not interested in your pity. I'm your brother. If I don't pity you, who will? He asked as he sat next to me, and then he placed his arm on my back and started running it in a comforting manner. This bastard hurt you so much. I'm sorry, sis. I really am, he continuously said, but I didn't respond as I was still shocked. I thought he was going to make fun of me, but I didn't respond as I kept stuffing ice cream into my mouth without swallowing it. And I promise you, William will pay for hurting you. It's not his fault, I'm the one who accepted his marriage even when he told me he didn't love me. I placed the bowl down and cleaned the tears that rolled down my cheeks. You shouldn't blame yourself for that bastard's crime, sis, it's not your fault he couldn't keep his dick in his pants. It's not that, Trey. I sniffed and shook my head. I came between two people who love each other. You all warned me, but I didn't listen. Thinking of it ached my heart as the emotions I bottled in earlier came crashing all at once. It's all my fault, I'm to blame, I sobbed as tears freely rolled down my cheeks. I felt so bad. If I listened, all this would. That's enough, sis. Trey raised his voice. Look at me, he demanded, but I shook my head. I was embarrassed. How could I look him in the eyes after all I had done? He tried to warn me, they all tried to warn me, but I never listened. Now look at where my stubbornness got me. I said, look at me, Anna. I was forced to face him. You didn't do anything wrong, you fell in love and gave yourself a chance. Which didn't end well, I sobbed. It doesn't matter how it ended, what's important is you realized it before it was too late, he said, now caressing my cheek. Trey had a way of convincing people it was his gift, and here I was falling for it as I nodded my head. He was right, I didn't do anything wrong. Loving someone and hoping to be loved back isn't a crime. Daddy will be so proud of you, now we can finally go home. No, I quickly said and stood up. Dad cannot know this, he will never forgive me. What are you saying? Trey also stood up as he faced me and said, Dad has already forgiven you. That's not true, I mean, if he did, why did he not try to find me? He hasn't spoken to me in 4 years, so how the hell did he forgive me? I yelled as I was also upset with my father. I was his daughter, his only daughter for that matter. Why on earth would he disown me and take the resources from me just because I made one mistake? You say he forgave me, right? Then tell me one thing, with the news trending, I'm sure he saw it. Why didn't he come to look for me? Don't tell me he hasn't seen it because I'm sure you are here because you saw it too. If you, who is rarely online, saw it then. This is what Mom said, he said, running a hand into his hair. She knew both Dad and you are stubborn, but how could she think I was the right candidate for this? He spoke words that didn't make sense to me. What's going on with Dad's company? Why is William the biggest investor? I asked, wiping my tears. You don't have to worry about that, sis. Santiago will be back soon, he will sort everything out. Santiago? Is he coming with Ivy? My voice trembled. Trey took my hands and led me back to the couch. Answer me, Trey, is Santiago coming with Ivy? When are they coming? I asked all at once without breathing. Santiago was my elder brother, while Trey was my twin. He behaves like this because he's a minute older than me. Santiago lived in Sedona with his wife and son. Ivy, my daughter, also lived with them. William didn't care about her, and I also didn't want her to watch him mistreat me or experience him ignoring her, so I sent her away. She only came for holidays and sometimes weekends. Speaking of Ivy, Trey pulled out his ringing phone, ignoring my question. There is my angel, how are you? He said as he picked up the call. The way he held the phone on his face made me realize it was a video call. I quickly wiped my tears, as I didn't want her to suspect anything. Ivy was a little adult, so any mistake she would just notice. Oh, I'm with your mommy, sweetheart, do you want to speak to her? Trey asked, and I quickly fixed my face and cleared my voice. Trey looked at me, and I nodded my head as he asked with eyes if I could speak with Ivy. I took the phone from Trey with trembling hands. I didn't want to worry her. Growing up without a mother or father was already tough for her. She always begged to return, but I kept making excuses. Mama, is everything okay? I tried to call you. She spoke so fast, but I didn't hear her last words as I was lost in my thoughts. Ivy was William's copy. Maybe it was because it was a one-time thing, as her eyes, hair, and even nose were exactly William's, but in a female version. Mama! She screamed, which shook me out of my thoughts. Is it Papa? Did he say something to you? Are you two getting a divorce? She asked, and my heart started racing at her question. She might have seen the news, as Ida was very smart. She might have searched for it online, but how was I supposed to tell her daddy was going to have a baby with another woman? I caught a tear that escaped my eye. I couldn't even imagine her pain. She loved her dad so much. Part of the reason I endured all those 4 years was because of her. Because I wanted to give her a family like others. Is wanting the best for your daughter a crime? William. I took a swig of my drink as I impatiently stomped my feet. What the fuck was taking her long to get back at me? Just a small task, and it's taking hours, I complained as I stood up and walked to the window, my fingers tracing my jaw. I couldn't believe Anastasia's audacity. What made her think she could divorce me? She's the one who begged to marry me. I should be the one to sign the divorce papers first, not her. I punched the wall, but as pain shot up my arm, I grunted in pain. Fuck. I cursed as I tried to soothe the pain. I couldn't wait for her any longer, so I walked back to the table and took my phone. I dialed her number, and she picked up the first ring. Mr. Rogers? I always ask myself how I employed such an incompetent human. I say do this, and you take hours to get it done. But sir, it's over 10 hotels. And so? People get that done in less than 10 minutes. I'm sorry, sir. Whatever, how many have you contacted so far? 7, sir. Just 7? Yes, sir, but they both agreed, they won't let Mrs. Rogers spend a night in their hotel. Good, make sure you call the rest, she needs to know who's in charge. Understood, sir, she said, and I ended the call. I almost sat down when I noticed a figure by the door. I hate when people spy on me, I said, looking at Jimena, who had her arms crossed on her chest. She was dressed provocatively, red lingerie that barely covered her figure. People? William, do I look like people to you? She asked, coming toward me. I didn't respond as I focused on my computer. I was searching for the Lancaster properties. I wanted to see if she had gone to one of them, as I doubted she went back to her father as they were not on good terms. What is it? I'm busy, I said, not sparing her a glance. I don't understand. What are you busy with? I'm right here, she let out a nervous laugh. Work, Jimena, work. Well, her voice changed to that always drove me crazy. I am sure work can wait, she whispered in my ear. I didn't notice when she got to me, as she was now seductively running her hands on my arms. I was feeling her for a moment as my dick got hard and I closed my eyes, taking in deep breaths. Jimena licked my earlobes and ran her hands on my back. It was all good at the moment until she mentioned a name I didn't want to hear. Why the fuck did you have to bring her name into this? I removed her from my body as I started fixing my clothes. Wait, why does her name get you so worked up now? I mean, I always mentioned her name, but it was never a problem. Jimena sounded shocked. Yes, she always made fun of Anastasia. I mean, we always made fun of her, how she couldn't do the things she did, how she couldn't get my dick up. It was never an issue, so I was as shocked as her. And what's shocking is that I only said she would never be able to make you feel what I make you feel, nothing insulting. I don't care what you said, I'm not in the mood anymore, I said and turned my attention to my phone. You are joking, right? Listen, William, I hate jokes like this. Okay, Anastasia left without us lifting a finger. We should be happy, we should celebrate. She walked to me and took my hand, then placed it on her flat belly. And besides, we are having a baby, even more reason to celebrate. Jimena, go to bed, I have a lot of work, I tiredly said as I sat down and searched for James' contact on my phone. James was my personal assistant. I needed him to go and search for Anastasia so I know where she was and how I would make her beg to return. Listen, Jimena sat on my lap. She forced me to face her. I think it's time we speed up things, she said, and I looked at her confused. Marry me? She asked, and I first thought it was a joke until she brought out a ring, the same ring that belonged to my grandmother, the ring I gave Anastasia. Looking at it reminded me of everything and made my heart race. I grabbed the ring from her hands and quickly stood up, which caused Jimena to almost fall as I got up without warning her. My heart twisted in pain as the past replayed in my head. William. Where do I even begin? Anastasia ruined my life. I had to marry her. My grandfather insisted that if I didn't, I could have lost the company. Honestly, I didn't care much about the company, but my child. That was different. I was planning to pull out at the last minute when she told me she was pregnant. I was heartless, but I would never let an innocent child suffer for something they didn't do. That's why I went ahead and married her. I sat at the table staring at the ring, remembering the day I gave it to her. How could she just take it off and leave it behind without my permission? Was she serious about this divorce? But that wouldn't make sense. Anastasia loved me, she endured all these years, even when I ignored her. So why was she doing this? I ran a hand through my hair, zoning out as Jimena argued about something. The only thing that snapped me out of my thoughts was the ringtone of my phone. I quickly reached for it and picked up. Speak, I said, sounding more irritated than I meant. It was Vanessa, my secretary. I managed to call 10 more, and they both agreed not to let Mrs. Rogers stay at their hotel, she said. Good. Listen, I want you to look into where Mrs. Rogers is now, I instructed. All right, sir. She hung up. Jimena interrupted my thoughts. William, what's wrong with you? What? I muttered, a little too harshly. Why do you care where she goes? Do you love her? No. Why would you say that, Jimena? I stood up, slipping the ring into my pocket. Because you're acting weird. She crossed her arms, and I felt an annoying pang of guilt. You're the one acting weird, Jimena. You never cared who I called, or if I cared about Anastasia. Why does it bother you now? I snapped. She was starting to act like Anastasia, always questioning who I spoke to, monitoring my every move like my boss. Well, that was before. Now I'm carrying your child. We're getting married soon. She gave me a pout, one of her many tricks. And so? I raised an eyebrow. So it bothers me. I'm a woman. It's normal to get jealous if you care so much for another woman, she said, her voice slightly rising. I suddenly wondered, when I was with Jimena before, did Anastasia ever feel the same way, dealing with this kind of jealousy and worry? I don't have time for this. I turned to leave, but she was quick to block the door. No, you're not leaving until we finish this conversation, she said, sounding ridiculous. Jimena, we can talk tomorrow. Excuse me? Are you messing with me? Her voice cracked, and I could see her frustration building. I exhaled sharply. Listen, I didn't mean it that way, okay? Then what does it mean? William. Anastasia signed the divorce papers before you even said anything. I mean, you were going to divorce her anyway. Her words stung. I raised my voice. Enough, I was done with this conversation. She only signed the divorce because I told her I was going to divorce her. Exactly, or did you want her to fine you first? She shot back, her sarcasm cutting through me. I felt my blood pressure rise. You were with me on her birthday, William. Instead of celebrating with her, you were with me, letting Anastasia make excuses for you. So you regret it now? The words hit harder than I expected. I felt my chest tighten, my hands curling into fists. I need her in my own way, I muttered. Now move. I don't want to do something stupid. Wait, what? Are you threatening me? Her eyes widened, and I knew I was losing control. I didn't want to do something I'd regret. I pushed past her, heading for the stairs, not caring if she yelled after me. I needed to leave. I grabbed the keys and closed the door behind me, locking it as Jimena pounded on it, demanding I open up. I took a deep breath, trying to clear my head, and walked to my car. I didn't care which one I took. I was so out of it that I picked the car I least liked. I needed to drive, but I knew I was in no condition to do so. My mind was all over the place. As I drove down the road, I had no particular destination in mind. The only thing on my mind was Anastasia signing those divorce papers. If this went public, it could ruin me. I had to fix it somehow. Ivy, maybe she called Ivy, I mumbled to myself, pulling my phone from my pocket. But just as I looked away from the road to get the phone, I heard a truck's horn blasting. I snapped my head up just in time to see the large truck barreling toward me. My heart raced. I slammed on the brakes, but it was too late. The truck was too close. I closed my eyes, bracing for impact, unsure if I'd survive this. Suddenly, everything went still. My car stopped. The truck stopped. I opened my eyes, confused. How had that happened? I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself as people rushed to the car. I couldn't let them see me. If I did, I'd be all over the news again. I was about to drive away when a thought struck me. This might be just what I needed. If I could make this incident work in my favor, it would distract everyone from the divorce. I rolled down the window and let the people around me talk, some offering help, others taking photos. I ignored the attention, focusing on those who seemed genuinely concerned. You're bleeding, someone said, pointing at my forehead. I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw a small scratch. It wasn't much, but it would be enough for the media. Can you drive? I'll take you to the hospital, one person offered. No, I'm fine, I said, shaking my head. I thanked them and drove off, fully aware of how they were snapping photos. I had a plan now. I needed them to believe that something serious had happened. As I distanced myself from the scene, I sped up and drove straight to a club. I wasn't in the mood for distractions, but I needed to unwind. I walked in, ignoring the waitress who offered to escort me. I didn't want company tonight. I was a VIP, and my table was already reserved. I wasn't here for the usual entertainment. I just needed liquor to forget everything, even if it was just for a little while. Vodka, I ordered, my voice rough. I sipped the drink, trying to dull the ache in my chest. The world was blurry, but I didn't care. I reached for my phone and dialed James, my personal assistant. Come pick me up, I slurred. He showed up soon after, pulling me out of my haze. We're going home, he said firmly, not giving me a chance to argue. I didn't fight him. I was too far gone. Take me to. Take me to her, I muttered, realizing the truth just as the car pulled away. James, I know